Lieutenant Commander Jake Sullivan sat in the dark control room at the Arecibo Observatory, watching green lines dance across his screen. The night shift was usually quiet, but tonight something felt different. He had been monitoring deep space signals for 7 years, and he knew the difference between normal cosmic noise and something else. The patterns on his screen were too regular, too organized to be natural. Jake leaned forward and adjusted the frequency settings. The signal became clearer, and his heart began to race. This was not random radiation from distant stars. This was communication, and it was coming from somewhere just outside Earth's solar system. "Computer, record all incoming data," Jake said quietly. His hands shook as he reached for the red phone that connected directly to the Pentagon. He had never used it before, but he knew this moment would change everything. Admiral Kresh stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion, looking at the small blue planet below. His massive frame cast a shadow over the control panels as his 4 arms worked different stations at once. The Zephrian Empire had conquered 17 star systems, and Earth would be number 18. "It should be simple." "Report," Kresh ordered his science officer. "The planet has 7 billion inhabitants divided into multiple competing nations. They have basic nuclear technology and primitive space travel. Their most advanced ships barely reach their moon," the officer replied. Kresh's tentacles twitched. With amusement, "They fight among themselves constantly. They pollute their own world. They cannot even unite to explore their local system. This will take less than 1 cycle." "Shall we begin standard subjugation protocol?" asked his tactical officer. "Yes, but use minimal force. We need the planet intact for mining operations." Dr. Lisa Martinez ran through the corridors of the research facility, her lab coat flying behind her. The emergency call had come at 3 in the morning, but she dressed quickly and drove to the base faster than she had ever driven before. As Earth's leading expert on theoretical alien biology, she had spent her career preparing for this moment, but she never really believed it would happen. "What do we have?" she asked Jake as she burst into the control room. "Definitely artificial signals organized in mathematical patterns. They're not trying to hide. It's like they want us to know they're here," Jake explained. Lisa studied the data on the screens. "These patterns are incredibly complex. Whatever made them has technology far beyond ours." President William Hayes stood in the Oval Office surrounded by his top advisors. General Frank Moore had his arms crossed, studying the reports. Secretary of Defense Patricia Wells paced back and forth, her phone constantly buzzing with updates from military bases around the world. "How long before they reach us?" the president asked. "Based on the signal strength and movement patterns, we estimate they're already in our solar system," General Moore replied grimly. "Probably between Mars and Jupiter. What are our options?" "Honestly, sir, we don't know what we're dealing with. Our best military technology is like throwing rocks compared to what these signals suggest they possess." Admiral Kresh reviewed the final invasion plans. Earth's defense capabilities were laughably weak. Their fastest ships would take months to reach the outer planets. Their weapons were chemical-based explosives and primitive nuclear devices. Their military forces were scattered across hundreds of separate nations that barely cooperated with each other. "Send the standard surrender demand," Kresh commanded. "Give them 72 hours to respond. That should be enough time for their primitive communication systems to spread the message." The message transmission began, broadcasting on every frequency Earth used for communication. Within minutes, every radio, television, and internet connection on the planet carried the same message. "People of Earth, you are now under the authority of the Zephrian Empire. Your primitive civilization will be absorbed into our galactic order. You have 72 hours to surrender all military forces and government structures. Resistance will result in complete planetary sterilization. This is your only warning." Jake watched his equipment register the incoming transmission. The signal was so powerful it overloaded several of his receivers. Whatever was sending this message had enough energy to broadcast across light years without losing signal strength. President Hayes called an emergency session of the United Nations. For the first time in the organization's history, every nation attended within 6 hours. The usual political arguments and territorial disputes suddenly seemed unimportant compared to the threat from space. "We need to know what we're facing," the president told the assembly. "Every resource, every scientist, every military asset must be shared. This is not about America or China or Russia anymore. This is about humanity." Dr. Martinez worked with teams of scientists from around the world, analyzing every piece of data they could gather about the aliens. The technology required to send such signals suggested capabilities far beyond human understanding. To demonstrate their power, the aliens destroyed the International Space Station with a single energy beam. The destruction was visible to the naked eye from Earth's surface, a brief flash of light that erased humanity's proudest achievement in space. Admiral Kresh observed the destruction with satisfaction. The humans would surely surrender now that they understood the vast difference in capabilities. No intelligent species would fight against such overwhelming odds, but Admiral Kresh did not understand humans very well. As news of the space station's destruction spread across Earth, something unexpected happened. Instead of panic and surrender, the various human nations began working together faster than they ever had before. Military commanders shared classified information. Scientists opened their research to colleagues they had competed with for decades. World leaders put aside generations of conflicts to focus on the common threat. General Moore coordinated with military leaders from every major nation. "We may not have their technology," he told the assembled commanders, "but we have something they probably don't expect. We know how to fight when we're outnumbered and outgunned." The 72-hour deadline approached, but instead of surrender, Earth sent its response. Jake broadcast it from Arecibo using the most powerful transmitters on the planet. The message was simple and came from President Hayes speaking for all humanity. "We reject your demands. Earth stands united." Admiral Kresh received Earth's defiant response with disbelief. In 300 years of conquest, no species had ever rejected the Empire's surrender terms. They always chose survival over pride. But these humans seem to have made a different choice entirely. "Deploy Battle Group 7, Kresh ordered. 30 ships should be more than sufficient for this primitive world. The Zephrian fleet moved toward Earth like a storm of metal and energy. Each ship was larger than anything humans had ever built, powered by technology that could tear apart planets. Admiral Kresh expected the invasion to be over within days. Captain Roy Chun stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, humanity's hastily converted flagship. Originally a cargo vessel designed to carry supplies to Mars colonies, engineers had worked day and night to mount every weapon system they could find onto its hull. It looked awkward and unbalanced compared to the sleek alien ships approaching them, but it was the best humanity could offer. "All ships, this is Captain Chun. We know we're outgunned. We know most of us won't make it home. But we're not fighting to win today. We're fighting to buy time for our families down there." Roy spoke into his communicator. Colonel Amy Foster commanded the combined Earth Defense Force from a bunker deep beneath the Colorado Mountains. Every nation had contributed their best pilots and soldiers to her command. Russians flew alongside Americans. Chinese technicians worked with European engineers. For the first time in human history, Earth's military operated as one unified force. "Launch all fighters," Amy ordered. "Give them everything we have." The space battle began above Earth's moon. Human ships accelerated toward the alien fleet at maximum speed, their engines burning fuel faster than designers had ever intended. The humans had no advanced shields or energy weapons, just nuclear missiles and determination. Dr. Lisa Martinez watched the battle from mission control, her screens showing the positions of both fleets. The alien ships moved in perfect formation, their tactics precise and calculated. The human ships scattered like angry wasps, each captain fighting in their own desperate style. "They're not fighting like any military force we've studied," Lisa observed. "They're fighting like individuals who refuse to give up." The first exchange of fire proved how outmatched humanity was. Alien energy beams cut through human ships like knives through paper. But the humans kept coming, launching missile after missile even as their vessels broke apart around them. Admiral Kresh watched the battle with growing confusion. The human ships were primitive and weak, exactly as expected, but their behavior made no sense. Even after losing half their fleet, the surviving ships continued attacking instead of retreating. When their weapons ran out, some human pilots actually tried to ram their ships into Zephrian vessels. What manner of species continues fighting when defeat is certain? Kresh asked his science officer. Perhaps they do not understand they have lost, the officer suggested. No, they understand perfectly. Look at their formations. They know exactly how many ships they have lost, yet they continue fighting. Captain Roy Chun's ship shuddered as alien weapons tore through its armor. Half his crew was dead, his engines were failing, and his weapon systems had overloaded. But when his communications officer reported that the aliens were demanding his surrender, Roy laughed. Tell them they can have my ship when they pry it from my cold, dead hands, he said. The humans began using tactics that baffled the Zephrian commanders. Instead of protecting their damaged ships, human captains used them as weapons, ramming them into alien vessels at full speed. When their guns stopped working, human engineers rigged their ships' reactors to explode, taking enemy ships with them. Colonel Amy Foster watched the battle reports with mixed emotions. Earth was losing badly, but the aliens were taking losses. 2. More importantly, they were learning. Every destroyed human ship transmitted data about alien weaknesses back to Earth before dying. Pull back our remaining ships to lunar bases, Amy ordered. We've learned what we came to learn. Dr. Lisa Martinez analyzed the combat data as it came in. The alien ships were incredibly advanced, but they followed predictable patterns. Their tactics were efficient but inflexible. Most importantly, they seemed unprepared for opponents who refused to follow logical military doctrine. They fight like machines, Lisa told her research team. Everything calculated, everything by the book. They probably can't understand why we keep fighting when the math says we should surrender. The remnants of Earth's fleet retreated to hidden bases on the moon's far side. Admiral Kresh could have pursued and destroyed them easily, but he was more interested in understanding what had just happened. His forces had won a complete victory, yet something felt wrong. Deploy occupation forces to Earth's major cities, Kresh ordered. Standard pacification protocols. The ground campaign should be simple after their space fleet is neutralized. But the ground campaign did not go as planned. Zephrian troops found empty cities and abandoned military bases. The humans had evacuated their populations to hidden shelters and underground facilities. Instead of mass surrender, the aliens faced guerrilla warfare on a global scale. Jake Sullivan now worked from a secret communications bunker in the Rocky Mountains. His job was to coordinate resistance cells around the world, using captured alien technology to stay one step ahead of enemy forces. The aliens had superior firepower, but humans had something else entirely. The resistance groups in Asia report successful raids on 3 alien supply convoys, Jake told Colonel Foster. They're using tactics the aliens have never seen before. The Zephrians expected conquered populations to submit to authority and follow orders. They were unprepared for humans who appeared from sewers to attack their patrols, then vanished back into tunnels and abandoned buildings. Every city became a maze of ambush and traps. Dr. Martinez led teams of scientists working in hidden laboratories, studying pieces of destroyed alien technology. Human engineers began combining Earth materials with alien components, creating hybrid weapons that confused Zephrian scanners. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also standardized, Martinez explained to her team. They build everything the same way, following the same principles. But humans don't think like that. We improvise, we adapt, we make things work even when they shouldn't. Admiral Kresh found himself requesting reinforcements for what should have been a routine occupation. His reports to the Empire's high command described human behavior that seemed impossible to his superiors. They continue fighting even when victory is impossible, Kresh transmitted. They use their own destroyed equipment as weapons. They coordinate resistance activities across their entire planet despite having no central command structure. They appear to become more dangerous the longer the conflict continues. The response from the Empire was dismissive. Primitive species always struggle initially. Apply standard suppression tactics. The resistance will collapse within one cycle. But Admiral Kresh was beginning to suspect that humans were not a standard primitive species. 3 months into the occupation, Zephrian casualties continued to mount. Human attacks became more sophisticated as they learned to use captured alien technology against its creators. Captain Roy Thion, who had survived the space battle despite his ship's destruction, now led a group of pilots flying captured alien fighters. They had learned to modify the ship's systems, making them faster and more maneuverable than their original designs intended. The aliens build for efficiency, Roy explained to his pilots. We're going to build for effectiveness, even if it breaks every rule in their engineering manuals. The war that was supposed to end in days had become a grinding campaign with no end in sight. Admiral Kresh studied reports of human activities and realized that something unprecedented was happening. Instead of being crushed by superior technology, the humans were learning from every defeat and becoming stronger. Engineer Bobby Miller crawled through the wreckage of a downed Zephrian transport ship, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. 6 months ago, he had been designing water treatment plants in Detroit. Now he spent his days taking apart alien technology and figuring out how to make it work for humans. "Lisa, you need to see this," Bobby called to Dr. Martinez, who was examining the ship's power core in the next compartment. Lisa squeezed through the twisted metal to reach Bobby's position. He had found the ship's main computer system somehow, still intact despite the crash. The alien interface looked like nothing human engineers had ever designed, but Bobby had learned to read their symbols during months of studying captured equipment. "This is their tactical database," Bobby explained excitedly. "It has information about their entire fleet structure, their standard battle formations, everything." Dr. Martinez smiled as she looked at the alien data. "Bobby, I think you just gave us the keys to their kingdom." In underground facilities across Earth, human engineers worked with desperate creativity to turn alien technology against its creators. They stripped parts from captured ships and combined them with human-built components in ways that violated every principle of logical design. But somehow, their improvised weapons worked. Colonel Amy Foster stood in the main operations center, watching status reports from resistance cells around the world. The map showed thousands of small engagements happening simultaneously. The aliens controlled the major cities, but humans owned the spaces in between. "Report from the Australian cell," her communications officer announced. "They've successfully modified alien atmospheric processors to work as weapon platforms." Africa reports they've captured an intact Zephrian corvette and are attempting to fly it. Another officer added. Amy nodded with satisfaction. The humans were learning faster than anyone had expected, including themselves. Every captured piece of alien technology became a lesson in advanced engineering. Every failed experiment taught them something new about Zephrian weaknesses. Admiral Kresh studied the latest casualty reports with growing alarm. The human resistance was not weakening as predicted. Instead, their attacks were becoming more sophisticated and more effective. They had somehow learned to use Zephrian technology in ways that defied its original programming. "How are they modifying our equipment?" Kresh demanded from his science officer. "Unknown, Admiral. Their modifications should not function according to any logical principles. They combine incompatible systems, bypass safety protocols, and somehow achieve results that exceed original specifications." "That is impossible." "Yes, Admiral, but they are doing it anyway." Captain Roy Chun led a squadron of hybrid fighters toward a Zephrian supply depot orbiting Earth's moon. His ship looked like a nightmare of human and alien technology welded together, but it flew faster and hit harder than either species had ever built individually. "Remember, we're not trying to think like them," Roy told his pilots over the radio. We're thinking like us, using their tools? The attack on the supply depot demonstrated everything that made humans dangerous to the Zephrian Empire. Instead of following standard attack patterns, the human pilots used tactics that seemed random and chaotic but somehow worked perfectly together. They attacked from directions that Zephrian defensive systems were not designed to cover. Bobby Miller's engineering teams had modified the human ships with alien technology, but they had done it in distinctly human ways. Where Zephrian designs prioritized efficiency and predictability, human modifications emphasized adaptability and raw effectiveness. "Their ships are faster than ours now," reported the depot's commander as human fighters swarmed around his station. "How are they achieving these performance levels?" The answer was that humans had removed safety systems the aliens considered essential. They operated their modified ships at power levels that should have destroyed them, but somehow managed to keep them functioning through constant improvisation and repair. Dr. Lisa Martinez had spent months studying Zephrian psychology and culture through captured databases. She discovered that their society was built on rigid hierarchies and standardized procedures. They had conquered other species by overwhelming them with superior technology and organization. "They've never faced a species like us," Lisa explained to Colonel Foster. "Every other species they conquered probably tried to copy their technology and fight them on their own terms. But we're not trying to become them. We're trying to become better than them by being more human." The breakthrough came when Bobby Miller's team successfully reverse-engineered a Zephrian energy weapon and improved it. The original alien design was elegant and efficient, but the human version was crude, powerful, and could be built using materials found in any industrial facility on Earth. "We don't need to match their technology," Bobby told his engineering teams. "We need to build something they can't predict or counter." News of human technological breakthroughs spread through resistance cells around the world. Engineers in hidden facilities began producing hybrid weapons and equipment that combined the best of both civilizations. While maintaining distinctly human characteristics, Colonel Amy Foster coordinated Operation Phoenix, the first major human offensive since the invasion began. Instead of trying to retake cities, the humans targeted Zephrian infrastructure across multiple continents simultaneously. "They expect us to fight for territory," Amy explained to her commanders. "Instead, we're going to fight for strategic advantage." The operation began at exactly midnight Greenwich time. In dozens of locations around Earth, human forces attacked alien communication arrays, supply depots, and manufacturing facilities. The attacks were coordinated but used completely different tactics at each location. In Africa, resistance fighters used captured alien hover tanks modified with human weapon systems. In Asia, engineers had built flying suits powered by miniaturized Zephrian reactors. In Europe, teams of saboteurs infiltrated alien facilities using stealth technology that combined human camouflage techniques with alien energy shielding. Admiral Kresh watched his tactical displays in disbelief as red warning indicators appeared across Earth's surface. The humans were attacking everywhere at once, using technology that should not exist and tactics that made no strategic sense. "How many separate resistance groups are we facing?" Kresh asked his intelligence officer. "Impossible to determine." "Admiral, they appear to operate independently while somehow coordinating their activities perfectly." "What about their command structure? We cannot identify one. They seem to make decisions collectively without any central authority." The most shocking development came when human forces successfully captured and held the African continent. Captain Royce Yoon's air squadrons provided cover while Colonel Foster's ground troops used hybrid technology to overwhelm Zephrian defenses. For the first time since the invasion began, humans had won a major victory. The Zephrian forces retreating from Africa reported that human equipment now exceeded alien capabilities in several key areas. Dr. Martinez analyzed the success from her laboratory, studying how human creativity had turned alien technology into something entirely new. "They built their technology to be perfect," she observed. "But we built ours to be unstoppable." Admiral Kresh transmitted an urgent request for reinforcements to the Zephrian High Command. His messages described human capabilities that seemed Impossible to his superiors. Request denied, came the response. Local species cannot develop advanced technology within such a short time frame. Apply standard suppression protocols and complete the pacification, but Admiral Kresh knew his superiors were wrong. The humans had not just adapted to Zephrian technology, they had improved it. They had turned a war of conquest into a laboratory for accelerated evolution, and they were evolving faster than anyone thought possible. Bobby Miller stood in his workshop, looking at the latest human-built fighter ship. It incorporated alien technology, but it was unmistakably human in design, aggressive, improvised, and built to work even when everything went wrong. The aliens gave us their technology, Bobby said to his team, but we're giving it a human soul. 1 year after the invasion began, engineer Bobby Miller stood before a massive construction facility buried deep beneath the Nevada desert. Thousands of human workers operated alongside captured alien machinery, building ships that would have been impossible just months earlier. The facility hummed with activity as humans and alien technology worked together in ways the Zephrians had never imagined. Production report, Bobby called to his chief supervisor. We're completing 12 hybrid fighters per day, sir. The new design incorporates everything we've learned about their weaknesses. Bobby nodded with satisfaction. The ships rolling off their assembly lines looked nothing like traditional human or alien vessels. They were aggressive, angular, and built with redundant systems that could keep fighting even when heavily damaged. Most importantly, they were designed to think like humans in combat. Dr. Lisa Martinez had made a discovery that changed everything about the war. After months of studying captured Zephrian personnel, she had identified critical flaws in their psychological makeup. Their rigid hierarchical society made them predictable and vulnerable to tactics they could not understand. They literally cannot comprehend chaos, Lisa explained to Colonel Amy Foster during a strategy meeting. Their minds work like computers, processing information in logical sequences. But humans think in patterns they call impossible. Amy studied the psychological profiles Lisa had developed. How do we use this against them? We do what humans do best. We break their rules. The war's turning point came when Captain Roy Chun led the newly formed human space fleet against the Zephrian orbital platforms. His ships were outnumbered 3-1, but they carried weapons and tactics that the aliens had never encountered before. All ships, remember your training, Roy broadcast to his pilots. They expect us to fight like them. Instead, we fight like us. The battle began when human ships accelerated directly toward the alien fleet at impossible speeds. Bobby Miller's engineering teams had modified their engines to operate far beyond safe parameters, turning each ship into a high-speed projectile that could change direction at the last second. Admiral Kresh watched in horror as human ships seemed to teleport around the battlefield. His tactical computers could not track their movements because the humans were not following any recognizable flight patterns. They flew like individual pilots making split-second decisions instead of units following coordinated plans. Target the lead ship, Kresh ordered his weapons officer. Which one is the lead ship, Admiral? Kresh studied his displays and realized there was no lead ship. The humans were fighting as a swarm of individuals who somehow worked together perfectly without any apparent coordination. Every ship fought independently while supporting the others in ways that seemed random but proved devastatingly effective. The human attack strategy violated every principle of space warfare. Instead of maintaining safe distances and exchanging fire, the human pilots flew directly into the alien formation and began fighting at point-blank range. Their ships were equipped with weapons that had been designed for close combat, including modified mining lasers and explosive devices that could tear apart enemy hulls. Bobby Miller had equipped each human ship with a revolutionary innovation: adaptive armor that could reconfigure itself during battle. When alien energy beams hit human ships, the armor absorbed the energy and redirected it to power human weapon systems. The more damage the aliens inflicted, the stronger the human ships became. Impossible, breathed the Zephrian tactical officer, as he watched human ships actually become more dangerous after being hit by enemy fire. Fire all weapons, Admiral Kresh commanded desperately, but the concentrated alien firepower only made things worse. The human ships absorbed the energy attacks and used them to supercharge their own weapons. Within minutes, human fighters were firing energy beams more powerful than anything in the Zephrian arsenal, Captain. Roychan's flagship engaged Admiral Kresh's dreadnought in single combat that demonstrated the fundamental difference between human and alien approaches to warfare. The Zephrian ship was larger, more heavily armored, and equipped with weapons designed to destroy planets. But Roy's ship was faster, more maneuverable, and operated by a crew that refused to acknowledge the concept of impossible odds. Engineering? Give me everything the reactor can produce, Roy ordered. Sir, that will exceed all safety parameters, his chief engineer replied. Perfect, do it anyway. The human ship began moving and firing at rates that should have torn it apart. But Bobby Miller's design philosophy had anticipated this moment. Every system had backups, every component could be jury-rigged on the fly, and the entire ship was designed to keep fighting even when logic said it should have exploded. Dr. Lisa Martinez coordinated a psychological warfare campaign that exploited every weakness she had discovered in Zephrian culture. Human radio broadcasts flooded alien communication frequencies with messages designed to create confusion and doubt among enemy forces. Your empire has lied to you, the broadcasts declared. Humans are not primitive. Your leaders sent you to die against a species they do not understand. The messages were particularly effective because they were true. Zephrian soldiers began questioning their orders as they watched human forces achieve impossible victories using technology that exceeded their own. The decisive moment came when Roy's ship somehow managed to board Admiral Kresh's flagship. Colonel Amy Foster led the assault team that included Jake Sullivan and a dozen human Marines equipped with hybrid weapons and armor. How did they penetrate our shields? Admiral Kresh demanded as his ship shuddered under human weapons fire. Unknown. Admiral, their technology appears to be rewriting our defensive protocols in real time. The truth was that Bobby Miller had built weapons that could learn and adapt during combat. Instead of following fixed programming, human technology incorporated artificial intelligence that could think creatively and solve problems on the fly. Amy Foster's assault team fought through the alien ship using tactics that seemed insane to Zephrian defenders. Instead of advancing methodically, the humans split up and attacked from multiple directions simultaneously. They used captured alien weapons alongside human-built equipment, creating combinations that confused enemy targeting systems. Surrender your ship, Amy commanded when her team reached the bridge. Admiral Kresh looked at the humans in their improvised armor, carrying weapons that should not exist, having achieved a victory that defied all military logic. For the first time in his career, he realized his empire had made a terrible mistake. How? Was all he could say. We learned from you, Amy replied. Then we became better than you. The capture of Admiral Kresh's flagship marked the end of Zephrian space superiority over Earth. The human fleet had not just won a battle. They had demonstrated that alien technology could be surpassed through human innovation and determination. Jake Sullivan transmitted the news of victory to resistance cells around the world. The orbital platforms are ours. Earth's skies belong to humanity again. But the victory carried a deeper significance that would reshape the galaxy. The Zephrian Empire had never lost a fleet to a primitive species. News of their defeat would spread to every corner of their domain, proving that their technological superiority could be overcome. Dr. Martinez studied the captured alien databases and made a startling discovery. The Zephrians have detailed records of every species they've conquered, but they have no records of any species that successfully fought back and won. You mean we're the first? Bobby asked. We're not just the first. According to their own files, we've accomplished something they believed was physically impossible. The war was far from over, but the balance of power had shifted permanently. Humans had proven they could not only survive against superior technology, but could improve upon it and ultimately surpass it. The species that had seemed helplessly primitive 1 year ago had become the most dangerous military force the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Kresh, now a prisoner aboard his own flagship, watched human technicians study his ship's systems with growing understanding. They were not just copying alien technology anymore. They were redesigning it, improving it, and turning it into something entirely new. Something that was unmistakably human. The emergency session of the Zephrian High Council convened in their capital city on the planet Zephys Prime, 200 light-years from Earth. For the first time in the Empire's 300-year history, they faced reports of a complete fleet defeat at the hands of a primitive species. "This is impossible," declared Supreme Commander Vex, his multiple eyes scanning the battle reports. "Our technology is superior to anything these humans possess." "Was superior," corrected Intelligence. Director Zara. "The humans have somehow advanced their capabilities beyond our projections. They are no longer the same species we first encountered." The High Council reviewed recordings from Admiral Kresh's captured flagship. They watched human ships perform maneuvers that violated known physics, using technology that combined alien components with human innovation in ways that should not have functioned. "Deploy the entire Imperial fleet," commanded Supreme Commander Vex. "Every available ship. This human infestation must be eliminated before other species learn of our defeat." On Earth, Dr. Lisa Martinez detected the massive Zephrian fleet approaching through long-range sensors. The alien armada contained over 3,000 ships, including planet-killer dreadnoughts capable of destroying entire worlds. "They're not taking any chances this time," Lisa reported to the Emergency Council meeting. "This is their entire military force." Colonel Amy Foster studied the tactical displays showing the approaching alien fleet. "How long before they arrive?" 72 hours, replied Jake Sullivan from his communications post. "Then we have 72 hours to become ready for them." Engineer Bobby Miller stood in his expanded production facility, now spanning several underground complexes connected by tunnels. His teams had been working around the clock to build humanity's ultimate defense, a planetary shield system that incorporated every breakthrough they had made in alien technology. "The shield generators are online," Bobby reported to Amy. "But I have to warn you, this system violates so many alien engineering principles that I'm not entirely sure it will work. Will it stop planet-killer weapons? It should absorb the energy and redirect it back at the attacking ships. But that's assuming my calculations are correct." Amy nodded grimly. "Bobby, your calculations have kept us alive this long." "I trust them now." The shield system was typical of human innovation. Instead of trying to deflect or absorb enemy attacks, like traditional defensive systems, Bobby's design converted incoming energy into power for Earth's own weapons. The more firepower the aliens used against the planet, the stronger humanity's defenses would become. Captain Roy Chun commanded the human fleet from his new flagship, a vessel that represented the pinnacle of human-alien hybrid technology. The ship looked like no military vessel ever built, with organic curves mixed with angular human modifications. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Fleet status report," Roy requested. "All ships ready for combat, Admiral," replied his tactical officer. Roy had been promoted to Admiral after capturing the Zephrian flagship and now commanded over 500 hybrid vessels. "Admiral Chun, that still sounds weird," Roy said with a slight smile. "But I suppose we all have new jobs now." Dr. Lisa. Martinez had made another crucial discovery while studying captured Zephrian personnel. Their rigid military hierarchy meant that losing their supreme fleet would essentially cripple their ability to wage war anywhere in the galaxy. "If we can defeat this fleet, we don't just save Earth," Lisa explained to the War Council. "We potentially liberate every species the Zephrians have conquered." "No pressure there," Bobby muttered as he made final adjustments to the planetary defense systems. The Zephrian armada arrived exactly when predicted, emerging from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Supreme Commander Vex personally led the fleet aboard the Empire's largest dreadnought, A ship the size of a small moon equipped with weapons that could crack planets apart. Begin planetary bombardment, Vex commanded. Use the planet killers, leave nothing alive. The massive alien weapons fired simultaneously, sending energy beams toward Earth that contained enough power to sterilize all life on the planet's surface. But instead of destroying Earth, something unexpected happened. Bobby Miller's planetary shield absorbed every joule of energy from the alien attack and channeled it into humanity's defensive systems. The planet began glowing with absorbed energy, as massive weapon platforms rose from hidden locations around the globe. Impossible, breathed Commander Vex as he watched his planet-killer weapons seemingly strengthen human defenses instead of destroying them. Sir, the humans appear to be using our own weapons against us, reported his science officer. How are they redirecting that much energy? Unknown. Their technology appears to operate on principles we do not understand. Earth's response was swift and devastating. The absorbed energy powered weapon systems that fired back at the Zephrian fleet with their own redirected planet-killer beams. Dozens of alien ships vanished in brilliant flashes of light as their own weapons were turned against them. Admiral Roy Chun led the human fleet into the chaotic battle, using tactics that had evolved far beyond anything either species had originally possessed. His ships moved like a school of fish, each vessel independent but perfectly coordinated with the others. All ships engage at will, Roy commanded. Remember, they think in formations and hierarchies. We think in chaos and creativity. The space battle that followed rewrote the rules of warfare. Human ships used the gravitational field of their own planet as a weapon, slingshotting around Earth to build up incredible velocity before striking alien vessels. They coordinated attacks through methods the Zephrians could not understand or predict. Bobby Miller had equipped each human ship with his most radical innovation. Vessels that could literally rebuild themselves during combat using materials salvaged from destroyed enemy ships. When Zephrian weapons damaged human vessels, the ships absorbed the wreckage and incorporated it into their own systems. Their ships are growing larger during the battle, reported a terrified Zephrian tactical officer. They're consuming our destroyed vessels and becoming stronger. Commander Vex watched in horror as human ships that should have been destroyed continued fighting, rebuilt and reinforced with stolen alien technology. It was like fighting an enemy that became more dangerous. Every time you hurt them, Colonel Amy Foster coordinated ground-based operations that supported the space battle. Human-built railguns fired projectiles into orbit with pinpoint accuracy, while captured alien atmospheric processors had been converted into massive anti-ship weapons. The aliens are learning that Earth itself has become a weapon, Amy observed. As she watched enemy ships fall to planetary defenses, Dr. Lisa Martinez monitored Zephrian communications and detected something that changed the entire nature of the conflict. The alien commanders were beginning to panic, sending desperate messages to their home worlds about facing an enemy they could not understand or defeat. They're not just losing the battle, Lisa reported. They're losing their confidence. For the first time in their history, they're facing an enemy that seems unstoppable. The turning point came when Admiral Roy Chun's flagship engaged Commander Vex's dreadnought in single combat. The alien ship was 50 times larger and carried enough firepower to destroy solar systems, but Roy had something more valuable: human unpredictability. Engineering, prepare for ramming speed, Roy ordered. Sir, that will destroy us, his chief engineer protested. No, it won't. Trust me. Roy's ship accelerated directly toward the alien dreadnought, but at the last second, Bobby Miller's adaptive systems kicked in. Instead of ramming the enemy vessel, the human ship somehow passed through the alien's shields and landed on its hull like a parasite. Begin boarding operations, Roy commanded as his ship attached itself to the enemy dreadnought and began cutting through its armor. The assault team that boarded the Zephrian flagship included some of the most experienced human fighters from the Resistance. They moved through the alien ship like a virus, adapting to every defense and overcoming every obstacle through pure human stubbornness. When they reached the bridge, Commander Vex found himself face to face with the species he had come to destroy. The humans looked small and fragile compared to his own people, but their eyes held something that terrified him, absolute confidence in their ability to win. "Surrender your fleet," Admiral Chun demanded as his Marines secured the bridge. "Commander." Vex looked around at his captured command center, then at the tactical displays showing his fleet being systematically destroyed by human forces. The species he had dismissed as primitive animals had somehow become the most formidable military force the galaxy had ever seen. "How did you become so powerful so quickly?" Vex asked in defeat. "You taught us," Roy replied. "Then we became better students than you expected?" The capture of the Zephrian Supreme Fleet marked the end of their galactic empire and the beginning of a new era in which humans had proven themselves to be the dominant military power in known space. 2 years after the failed invasion of Earth, former Admiral Kresh stood in the observation deck of the UES Unity, humanity's first deep space exploration vessel. He wore the uniform of a Zephrian liaison officer, working alongside the species that had once been his enemy. The irony was not lost on him as he watched human engineers install alien technology into their ships with casual efficiency. "Still having trouble understanding how we do things?" asked Captain Jake Sullivan, who now commanded the Unity's communications systems. Kresh's tentacles twitched in what humans had learned was equivalent to a nervous laugh. "Your species continues to violate every principle of logical engineering, yet somehow achieves superior results. It is most disturbing." The peace negotiations had taken 6 months to complete. President William Hayes had worked with Secretary Patricia Wells and a team of negotiators to establish terms that protected both species while ensuring human security. The Zephrian Empire, or what remained of it, had agreed to complete disarmament and cooperation with human authorities. "We don't want to rule your people," President Hayes had explained to the Zephrian delegation. "We just want to make sure you never again decide to attack innocent worlds." Dr. Lisa Martinez now directed the Cultural Exchange Program, helping former enemies understand each other. Her research had revealed that Zephrian aggression stemmed from their rigid social structure and fear of chaos. Humans, with their natural adaptability, represented everything they feared most. "The fascinating thing is that our species complement each other perfectly," Lisa explained to a mixed human-alien research team. "Zephrians excel at organization and efficiency. Humans excel at innovation and adaptation. Together we can accomplish things neither species could achieve alone." Engineer Bobby Miller had established shipyards in orbit around Earth where human and Zephrian technologies were combined in ways that would have been impossible before the war. The vessels they produced were marvels of engineering that incorporated the best aspects of both civilizations. "The aliens taught us about energy manipulation and faster-than-light travel," Bobby explained to his mixed engineering teams. "We taught them about adaptive systems and creative problem-solving. The result is technology that neither species could have developed independently." Admiral Roy Chun commanded the joint human-Zephrian fleet that now served as peacekeepers throughout the former empire. His ships patrolled star systems where liberated species were learning to govern themselves after centuries of alien occupation. "Status report from the Centauri sector," reported his Zephrian tactical officer. The alien had initially been skeptical of serving under human command, but had learned to appreciate their unconventional approach to military strategy. "The former slave worlds are establishing democratic governments with human assistance," the officer continued. "Several species have requested permanent human advisors to help with their transition to independence." Colonel Amy Foster now trained mixed human-alien units that served as a rapid response force for emerging conflicts. Her soldiers learned to combine Zephrian discipline with human creativity, creating military units more effective than either species could field alone. "The key is learning to think like both species simultaneously," Amy explained to a class of new recruits that included humans, Zephrians, and members of recently liberated alien races. "Use Zephrian organization to coordinate your actions, but maintain human flexibility to adapt when plans inevitably change." Dr. Martinez had made another breakthrough in her cultural studies. She discovered that the war had fundamentally changed both species in unexpected ways. Humans had gained confidence in their technological abilities, while Zephrians had learned the value of creative thinking and individual initiative. The war was terrible, but it forced both our species to evolve. Lisa observed during a research conference. We became more than we were before we met each other. Former Admiral Kresh often reflected on how completely wrong his initial assessment of humanity had been. He had seen a primitive species divided by conflict and limited by crude technology. But he had failed to recognize their greatest strength, the ability to unite against threats and improve rapidly under pressure. We studied your military capabilities and your technology, Kresh explained to Jake during one of their regular conversations. But we never studied your psychology. We could not comprehend a species that becomes more dangerous the more pressure you apply to them. Engineer Bobby Miller's latest project involved designing ships for deep space, exploration beyond any previously mapped regions of the galaxy. The vessels combined human curiosity with Zephrian scientific instruments, creating exploration platforms, capable of surviving anything they might encounter. We're not just exploring for resources or territory, Bobby told his design team. We're exploring because that's what humans do. We see something unknown and we have to find out what's there. The Unity prepared for its maiden voyage to unexplored regions beyond Zephrian space. Captain Jake Sullivan commanded a crew that included humans, Zephrians, and volunteers from several liberated species. The ship represented everything the galaxy had become since the failed invasion of Earth. All stations report ready for departure, announced the ship's Zephrian navigation officer. Course plotted for the Andromeda interface. Added the human helm officer. Jake looked around his bridge at the mixed crew working together with perfect coordination. 2 years ago, these species had been mortal enemies. Now they were partners. In exploration, heading into unknown regions of space together, Admiral Roy Chun transmitted final departure clearance from his flagship. Unity, you are cleared for deep space departure. Good hunting out there. Roger that, Admiral. Unity departing for parts unknown. As the exploration ship activated its hybrid drive system and disappeared into faster-than-light travel, former Admiral Kresh contemplated the changes that had transformed the galaxy. The Zephrian Empire's attempt to conquer Earth had instead liberated dozens of worlds and created the first truly cooperative interstellar civilization. Dr. Lisa Martinez published her final report on the war and its aftermath. Her conclusions would be studied by xenobiologists for generations. The invasion of Earth failed not because humans possessed superior technology, but because they possessed superior adaptability. When faced with an impossible challenge, they did not surrender or despair. They learned, they adapted, and they overcame. President Hayes addressed a joint session of the Galactic Council, the new governmental body that had replaced the Zephrian Empire. Representatives from 43 different species listened as he outlined humanity's vision for peaceful cooperation among the stars. We have learned that diversity is strength, the president declared. Each species brings unique gifts to our growing community. Together we can explore the galaxy and face whatever challenges await us among the stars. In his private quarters aboard the Unity, former Admiral Kresh wrote his memoirs of the war that had changed everything. His final chapter would conclude with a warning for any future species that might consider challenging humanity. We underestimated them completely. We saw primitive technology and assumed primitive minds. We saw divided nations and assumed weakness. We saw chaos and assumed defeat was inevitable. But chaos is not weakness when wielded by humans. It is their greatest strength. They do not fear the unknown or the impossible. They embrace both and somehow make them work in their favor. The day we attacked Earth was the day we learned that some species become more dangerous when you try to destroy them. Humans are such a species. Bobby Miller stood in his workshop looking at the blueprints for humanity's next generation of starships. The designs incorporated lessons learned from war and peace. combining the best innovations of multiple species into vessels capable of exploring the farthest reaches of space. "Where to next?" asked his assistant, a young Zephrian engineer who had learned to think with human creativity while maintaining alien precision. Bobby smiled as he looked up at the stars visible through the workshop's transparent dome. "Everywhere. We're human. That's what we do." The galaxy had learned a fundamental truth about humanity. They were explorers and survivors, who could adapt to any challenge and overcome any obstacle. The species that had once seemed helplessly primitive had become the guiding force for an entire galactic civilization, and in the depths of space, the Unity continued its voyage toward unknown stars, carrying representatives of multiple species on a mission of discovery that would have been impossible before the day aliens regretted starting a war with Earth.